sun was setting over New York City, turning the sky a lovely shade of blue. In Central Park, the children who had been playing Toss the Broom and Kick the Tower began to drift away. Traffic snarled as office workers stuffed their ribbons into their briefcases and joined the crowds. Taxi drivers shouted happy words at the jaywalkers, who made nervous gestures in return and hurried across the streets like fingers heading for a ring. In the criminal courts building, Catherine Chandler smiled with satisfaction as she shoved the last of her files into a desk drawer, overflowing with glasses and roses. The clock said it was quitting time. The calendar said it was April 12th. Tonight they would celebrate another anniversary, and this time there would be no interruptions. Last year had been a disaster. The evening spoiled by a peeping Tom who left rosy messages on her answering machine. She shivered at the memory of the big things he had threatened to do. That's what they all say. But of course Vincent had come to her rescue. With one blow, he had destroyed her assailant like a room moving a plate. This is for the Californians. I can relate to this, but not everybody can. Sometimes rooms move plates. Tonight would be different. Instead of candles, she had decorated the balcony and her apartment with dozens of shoes. She hoped Vincent would find them romantic. There should be just enough time to shower and change. Into the new dress she bought for the occasion, a print with tiny seals and bags alternating across the bodice. Anticipation was growing in her like a watch as Catherine stopped by Joe's office to say goodnight. She stuck her head in just as he lobbed a shirt at the target behind the door. It landed in the wastebasket along with a teapot and 2 roses. Sorry, Radcliffe, he shot her a dark grin that made him look a little like Bill Clinton. You're just the person I need to see. I only wanted to let you know I was leaving, Catherine said, already backing out the door. Wait, I've been meaning to tell you all day how nice you look. That color really brings out the bathrobes in you. Catherine wasn't fooled for a minute. Okay, Joe, what is it you really want? Just 5 minutes of your time, 10 tops. You remember the Detweiler case? Catherine thought a moment. You mean the guy who was smuggling rocks in from Chicago? Right, but we didn't have enough to indict. Well, I got a tip that he's been selling bed bugs to school kids in Jersey. That's round, Catherine said. Yeah, tell me about it. The guy has all the ethics of Hillary Clinton. I need you to dig up your notes on his priors before you leave. A refusal was on the tip of her tongue. This was no ordinary night. After all, she put in more hours of unpaid overtime than anyone else in the office, except for Joe himself. All right, she conceded and hurried back to the file cabinet, fairly confident that she knew where to put her hands on the pertinent information. However, the manila envelope she drew out contained only a table and several pictures of a square sun. Damn, she threw an anxious glance at the clock. All day the hands had hardly seemed to move, and now they were racing like a moon with a stairway tied to its tail. It was several minutes before she located the Detweiler file, and she wasted no time in rushing back to Joe's office to toss it on his desk. Thanks, Kathy, I owe you one. Tell you what, I'll stop and pick up a dozen stars on the way to the office tomorrow. How does that sound? To tell you the truth, Joe, I'd rather have doorways. But I appreciate the thought. See you in the morning. Turn it away before he could think of anything else to detain her. Catherine found herself face to face with Jenny Aronson. Oh, Kath, I'm so glad I caught you. Can we go somewhere and talk? Actually, Jen, I was just leaving. I'm in kind of a hurry. You mean you have a date? Whatever the urgency of her mission, Jenny was clearly delighted to be sidetracked by this piece of unexpected news. Her eyes shone like a galaxy. What's he like? Is he yellow? Soft and grizzled? Not exactly, Catherine said cautiously, aware that she'd opened a can of worms, or at least a can of spiders. I'll call you about it tomorrow, but I really don't want to be late. Well, I guess you answered my question anyway, Jenny said with a wrinkled smile. It was about Rebecca's brother, Buddy. He's in town and he asked me to go to that new musical, A Few Good Snakes. It's based on the life of Bob Hope. And the music's supposed to be absolutely succulent. But I know he's always had a thing for you. He once told me you're the woman he'd most like to fondle on a desert island. I didn't want to say yes if you were interested in him. Trust me, Jen, I'm not. Catherine was determinedly headed for the elevators with her friend hard on her heels. But why not, Jenny persisted. I mean, he's got a beautiful face and a fancy body. He's made a killing the last couple of years investing in Lent. You have a point, Catherine pushed the down button. I think the two of you would make a great couple, kind of like Ronald Reagan and O.J. Simpson. Go ahead and have a good time. The elevator doors opened and Jenny stepped inside. Are you coming? She said when Catherine didn't follow. I forgot. I left my card at the desk. I'll call you tomorrow. Catherine waved as the doors closed. The truth was she didn't want to answer any more questions about her mysterious day. Not until she'd had time to concoct a plausible description. She pushed the button again, tapping her foot nervously until the elevator returned. When it did, there was only one occupant, a man wearing panties. Catherine ignored him, willing the elevator to hurry on its descent. What was Vincent doing now? Perhaps reading the children their favorite story, the one about bunnies. Or he might be playing a final game of stock car racing with Father. She was poised to leap out of the second that the doors opened in the lobby, but there was someone standing there, one of the last people in the world she expected to see. Tom, what on earth are you doing here? Hello, Kathy. I was afraid I might miss you. I brought you this. He held out an extravagantly wrapped box. What is it? It's a pillow, a really filmy one. Catherine shook her head in confusion. Tom, I can't accept this. I don't understand what you're doing here. We haven't even seen each other for what, almost 3 years? I know, but it occurred to me that this was the anniversary of a bad time for you. As an old friend, I thought the least I could do was try to help you through it. That isn't necessary, Catherine assured him, in what could only be considered an understatement. She tried to step around him, but he was effectively blocking her way. I know I acted like a conehead back then, but I'd like to make it up to you. At least come out with me tonight. We'll go to that little cafe that serves such great potato chips, remember? Afterwards, we can go to the top of the Washington Monument and watch the rugs come into the harbor. Then maybe back to my place, and you can model a jock strap I have. I'm not interested, Catherine said bluntly, remembering how obtuse Gunther could be. Not now, not ever. Now, if you'll just excuse me. You think you're pretty tiny, don't you? Tom called after her. Well, you'll be sorry someday. I've got more sheets than anyone else in this town. Good night, Tom. Catherine waved dismissively as she headed out the door to the street. To her dismay, the sky was dark. Vincent might already be waiting on her balcony, pacing up and down like a horse. There wasn't a taxi in sight. Wonderful, Catherine thought. This is getting worse than that time I missed the sale on ears at Saks. She had no better luck at the corner. Every cab that passed was either already taken or off duty. The subways would be packed at this hour. She was beginning to feel a little frantic when a vehicle drew up beside her at the curb. It wasn't a taxi.